Hello everyone, a very good morning, good afternoon and good evening to all of the viewers from around the world. This is your host Vaibhav. I welcome all of you to today's session of correlation and regression where we will be considering the per price dynamics which have unfolded so far in the day for the Asian trading session as well as in the European trading session to get used to how to go about the trading situation in the upcoming United States trading session, North American trading session in all. So let us now head to the JForex for the newly released trading platform from the Dukascopy Bank SA. This is the chart for the GBP USD drawn in the candlestick time frame of 5 minutes, and I have added this range of 2 hours and 4 hours respectively, each candle being of 5 minutes with the Donchian channel calculation derived using 24 candles, so that turns out 120 minutes, 2 hours, and this is 240 minutes, 4 hours. And to look at the price dynamic, I'm also considering the average price over last 1 hour and 2 hours respectively. Now, if we look at the chart of the GBP USD at the moment, it is moving sharply. And if we look at its immediate price dynamic in last couple of hours, it has traded in a narrow range of around 40 to 50 pips. That's not exactly narrow. It is pretty much in line with its average range for last 4 hours. So if we look at its immediate price action, it is indeed quite sharp of around 30 pips, and that is happening after the release of data at just a couple of minutes back. And earlier, it was gaining. Now, after the release of data, it has given up all those gains, and it is looking to break on the lower side. But if we look at its larger time frame data points, here we have this situation where it has crossed above its 24-hour moving price as well as the 12 hours moving price. So it is indeed having some support on the lower side. It didn't really break below this immediate swing low either, and it rebounded after getting close to that level. So keeping those things in mind, I think the underlying trajectory is still favorable for a bullish trade, as we have seen the price dynamic unfolding so far in the European trading session with these gains of around 60 to 70 points from these low points. If we don't really see any critical break on the lower side, a break which is sustained below this prior swing low, I think we do have the opportunity to go long even after this consolidation. We can think about going for a long trade, or if it correct somewhat more if it goes towards this 24-hour average price and consolidates there for a couple of hours. I think we will have a more favorable scenario of going for a long trade compared to what we have right now. Now, coming to the relative strength and weaknesses of these currencies against the dollar, we have to compare various currencies like Euro USD, AUD USD, NZD USD, of course, GBP included, along with the currencies crosses like USD CHF, USD JPY, and USD CAD to see which one is the strongest in which side, whether it is bullish or bearish, and then the relative strength and the weakness in this chosen direction. So if we look at the GBP US price trajectory so far for the day, it made its low at 1.194 in the Asian trading session, and there onwards it has continued to gain. And after the start of the European trading session, it did correct almost 40 to 50 pips, but then it rebounded equally sharply. And right now it is holding on to those levels. But I feel instead of going for a trade straight away, if it corrects from these levels to some more extent, and if it tries to get closer to this prior swing low and consolidates while holding above it, then there is of course a higher, or you can say an increased chance of being on the right side of the trade. Of course, the trajectory, the direction is still favorable for the bullish trade, but maybe the price action can wait for some more correction, and in that eventuality we will have higher probability of making a big swing trade. So if we now look at the price trajectory of the other currencies, we will be able to figure out the relative strength. And for that, let us first consider when these highs and lows were made for the GBP USD. GBP USD, after making these 4-hourly low at 8:25 GMT, went on to make these high at 11 GMT, and after that, it has gone sideways. So there is no big move on either side. Let's consider and compare it with the Euro USD's price trajectory. For the Euro USD, the high came in at around same point, but if we look at its price trajectory, the decline was shallow, and then this high came in pretty early, even ahead of the GBP USD, and then this rise here has gone on to make a fresh 4-hourly high. So after inferring all these data points, we can surely draw a conclusion that we have the bullish trajectory for the Euro USD, but it is on the stronger side compared to the GBP USD. So here also we will have to continue to look for the buying opportunities. But right now it is correcting somewhat after making these fresh 4-hourly high. So keeping that in mind, if it goes in correction phase and consolidates on the lower side while holding closer to these immediate swing lows, I think we will have increased chance in the euro. But of course, it will have to rank ahead of the GBP USD. If you trade in GBP USD or the Euro USD, and you determine that the buy trade is a best bet, even in that scenario, I would suggest that you should only take the trade in one of the currency, not all of the currencies or both of the currencies. And for that precise reason, we have to look at the relative strength and the weaknesses of these currency process. And now that we have the lead with the Euro USD, the Euro USD should be given the first preference if and when we decide to go for a long trade in this environment where the dollar seems to be on the back foot. Let's consider the AUD/USD also. AUD/USD has continued to rise for the day. It didn't really correct much. The correction was shallow earlier in the day, and after that, it has continued to make these higher highs with this immediate swing high coming just a couple of minutes back. And if we look at these highs timing and compare it with the Euro USD high timing, it is almost similar. So we don't really have much of a difference. But if we look at this correction of the AUD USD and Euro USD, the AUD USD is a lot lower, and it is now inching closer to this prior swing low. So because of that, I think the preference will have to still given to the Euro USD. And even if we look at these high, when this high was formed, it is lagging behind the Euro USD. So we have the highest strength on the bullish side for Euro in current scenario. NZD/USD is also in the same trajectory, but it is relatively on the weaker side. It just made this 4-hourly low. So you can say that in the event of turnaround, the NZD/USD will be the best bet. But as long as the whole of the picture remains favorable for the shorting of the dollar, I think it is better to avoid trading in the NZD/USD. But given its decline and the lack of fresh swing high, we will of course have to rank it behind the other currency crosses. But let us compare it to the GBP USD and see how things are unfolding. For the GBP USD, the low was not really made below this prior swing low, so that extent at least it is ahead of the GBP. But in the event of a turnaround, and if the dollar starts to gain strength, then of course the NZD/USD will have to be our first choice to go with the dollar strength. And for that, of course, we need to wait for some more time. And if we look at its immediate price trajectory, it is having some resistance on the higher side closer to this immediate high, which is there around 0.6251, and it consolidated and then declined on the lower side. So that is something which we do have to keep in mind as and when we will get the opportunity maybe later in the day to short. then I think if we see the NZD/USD again climbing back closer to this prior swing high, it can to go some pips higher also. We will always have to keep some buffer of say 10, 15 pips, and if within this range it consolidates and doesn't really rise much after due correction, after due consolidation, we can indeed think about shorting the NZD/USD. Now let's invert the scale and consider the USD CAD. The USD CAD is also continuing to gain strength against the dollar. It has declined considerably in today's session, almost 100 pips. If we look at its highest point and its lowest point, it is almost close to 100 pips. Even now, it is in the bear grade. And if we have to go for any trade in the USD CAD, it should be preferably on the short sale side. It is not showing any signs of consolidation or the support, and in these flow a strong bearish momentum, it is better to go for the trade with the trend or simply to sit on the sidelines if you are not really comfortable shorting it at its current price. Now, the question is whether it is stronger even compared to the euro, or if it is following the euro, as euro so far has shown the strongest of the bullish momentum. So let's consider it made this high at 15:15 GMT, and for the USD CAD, this low has came in even prior to that. So CAD is leading the charge against the dollar. Dollar is on the back foot against almost all of these major currencies, but CAD in particular, it has gained. Also, in terms of the magnitude, the decline is significant at 100 pips. And if we compare it to the Euro USD price range, it is higher. For the Euro USD, the price range is of around 60 to 70 pips. But in case of CAD, it is almost 100 pips. So both in terms of the timing as well as in terms of the magnitude of this decline, the CAD is clearly lead currency. And for any short sale trade in this scenario, the CAD I think is going to be a best bet for the continuation of this ongoing price dynamic. The USD CHF is also showing the similar trajectory, but it is to some extent it is more in line with the middle of the pack attitude. It is not showing that strong line, both in terms of the magnitude as well as in the sense of its timing. So for that, the lead still stands with the USD CAD. Let's consider the USD JPY. Oh, USD JPY seems an interesting picture. Earlier in the day, it was consolidating, and there was not much of an strong momentum on either side. It first gained, after that those gains evaporated, and we saw this low made at 138.33. But since then, it seems to have reversed course, and here the JPY seems to be the weakest bet. So you can say that even though the dollar is on the back foot against most of the other currencies, major currencies, it is leading, it is getting stronger against the JPY. So that gives you the relative strength and the weakness, the idea where JPY is the weakest bet, and if you can combine the currency cross is like say for example Euro JPY or CAD JPY, I think you will have a match where one currency is pretty strong and another currency is pretty weak, and in that kind of scenario you can try to gain the advantage. Suppose if we look at its chart, then the Euro JPY should be gaining higher ground, and a similar trajectory should be also observed in case of the CAD JPY. So let's see. Here we have the CAD JPY. It's taking a little bit time. As expected, the CAD JPY has gained quite a lot of ground for the day. It has risen almost more than 100 pips, and I'm expecting this bullish trajectory to remain intact. At least there is any sort of reversal. Either we have to go for a eventuality where JPY might start strengthening or CAD might lose its bullish momentum. Only in that scenario we can expect a turnaround. But as of now, as the things stand, the momentum is quite strong. So the only choice which we have is to either ride with the flow, keep looking for the buy trades, or simply sit on the sidelines, but not really think about shorting it in this current price dynamic where it is going from strength to strength. Now we shift our attention to the indices, and let us start with the US equity indices. As in half an hour we are going to see the start of the North American trading session. Now, after the release of US data, here we saw this sharp move for the Dow Jones Industrial Average. If we look at its price trajectory so far for the day, the range has been narrow of around 140, 150 points for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and there is not much to talk about. Of course, the only thing is that there is now this formation of lower highs and lower lows. So, if and when we get some sort of consolidation on the higher side with no break above this immediate swing high of 33,925, we can indeed think about shorting it. But for that, let us first consider the larger picture. And if we look at the larger picture of the Dow Jones Industrial Average, then we have a situation where the Dow Jones has consolidated closer to its 24 hours average price. And right now, we have last 12 hours average price, which is above the 24 hours average price, but it is not really able to sustain itself above this range. So currently, the price dynamic is still bearish, and we can simply expect to profit from this formation where we have the formation of lower highs and lower lows. Yesterday, also, we had this consolidation with the bearish momentum, and I am expecting the picture to remain more or less of similar nature. We may not get a big trade, big swing trade, or a fresh breakout on the lower side below 33,660. But as long as these prior swing high holds, and if we don't really have any fresh break on the higher side, till then we can continue to look for scalping opportunities where we can continue to look to short the Dow Jones Industrial Average as close as possible to the 34,000 range, while keeping the stop loss above these prior swing high and expecting a move, if not below it, at least closer to this immediate swing low of 33,660. So that possibility is still there. Now, if we look at the lower time frame price formation, here we have this fresh low formation for the Dow Jones Industrial Average, and that gets us additional confirmation that after the release of these US data, we have the bearish tendency which is getting stronger. So we do have this additional confirmation in place now, but it's not really a good idea to short the equity indices at the current price dynamic, current price levels after this decline of a significant amount which has already taken place. So that complicates the picture a bit, and we do need the consolidation first to initiate the new trade. Now, if we look at the price formation of the S&P 500, it is not that bearish if we compare it to the Dow Jones Industrial Average. The Dow Jones Industrial Average price formation is a lot more bearish if we simply look at its low and the high. Here it has almost given up on almost all of the gains made earlier in the day, and that is something which we have to keep in mind. So here we do get this clarity where if we expect the equity indices to go in decline in that scenario, the advantage will lie with the shorting of the Dow Jones Industrial Average. But in the eventuality of consolidation on the lower side and then breakout on the higher side, we will have to take the look on the S&P 500, or for that matter, the Nasdaq. Let's consider the Nasdaq's price dynamic. Nasdaq is also moving sharply with this range now in the expansion phase, and let me consider its average price for last 24 hours. It is pretty much trading at this crossover point with 24 and 12-hour moving prices converging closer to the 11,530 levels. And if we look at its larger trajectory, the formation is of lower lows and lower highs. So the larger picture still, of course, remains bearish. It's only a matter of choice and of levels where we can go for the short sell trade. I feel if we look at the prior price formation with this consolidation, here this was a good price point to think about shorting it. Now that we have already seen this significant enough decline, we will have to take a cautious approach here and allow it to consolidate further. And maybe after that, we can indeed think about shorting it. And of this, all these three equity indices, if we have to compare and define which one is the strongest and which one is the weakest, I think the advantage lies with the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which has continued to make these lower lows and it didn't really make a fresh swing high either. So, keeping these factors in mind, the lead is with the Dow Jones Industrial Average on the bearish side, and if in the eventuality of it holding on the lower side, consolidating well and not really breaking on the lower side, but trying to gain the price on the higher side. In that eventuality, we will have to think about trade, but in the S&P 500, as this is a better placed index for the US. Let's consider the price dynamics of the European equity indices as we are approaching towards the close of the the European session. Here, the momentum is quite strongly on the bullish side with this formation of higher highs. We did saw the FTSE 100 correcting from these levels of 7,565 to 7,525, but it reversed those losses quite swiftly, and then there is this continuation on the higher side now. So we have the scenario where the divergence is there between these two countries indices, equity indices. For the US, the things are looking bearish, but for UK, things are looking bullish after this consolidation. The UK's equity index has continued to make higher highs. It was consolidating closer to these 24 hours and 12 hours moving price earlier in the day, and from there on, now it has gathered strength and deviated strongly on the higher side. So this is not looking like a area where we can think about initiating the new long trades, but maybe wait and watch approach and optimum entry point further down the line is going to be a good opportunity to wait out for. Let's consider the DAX equity index of the Germany. Here is the DAX. DAX is not really seeing that bullish momentum, and here it is more in line with the price formation of the North American equity indices. And if we look at its price dynamic starting yesterday, it has traded in this narrow range with this clear break on the lower side. So that makes it more prone to the bearish decline, and it is not far off from this prior swing low either. So in that case, we do have to steer clear of any kind of buy trades in the DX. It is more in line with this bearish formation, and if we do get the chance, then the first preference still lies with the Dow Jones, but even the DX can also be considered. For the CAC 40, the equity index of the France, the trajectory is more in line with the FTSE 100, but for any buy trade, the FTSE 100 is having a clear lead both in terms of the price dynamic as well as the timing of this high formation. So, because of that, we have a situation where if we think that the equities are going to go in decline, then the lead on the bearish side is with the Dow Jones Industrial Average. But if after the consolidation you don't really feel like going for any short sale trade in any equity index, then we have the bullish trajectory for the FTSE 100. So there is divergence, and we will have to go with the strongest of the flow, either whether it is on the bullish side or on the bearish side. So we are indeed getting that clarity with this relative comparison. So that's my take looking at the current price formation of these equity indices. Earlier we saw the currency crosses also. So that's all from my side for today's session. If you have any query or any idea to share, you can write back to me in the feedback section, and I would be more than happy to take the discussion forward. For further coverage of the market developments, do check out the Dukascopy Analytics page. We are also available on the Facebook. Hello, Alice. How are you? I'm fine, and we will, of course, check the Bitcoin before we wrap up the session. Let's consider the Bitcoin. For Bitcoin, the price formation is giving the idea of the bearishness prevailing here. We have these formations of lower lows and the lower highs on the 4 hourly chart. If we look at its larger picture, then it is more of any phase where the correction is taking place after this sharp jump for around 3 percentage point. This rise happened earlier in the day during the Asian trading session, and after that it seems to be consolidating around those gains. And as long as we have the Bitcoin holding above this 24 hours moving average price, we still have to look for the buy trade. And here, if we consider this current price formation, that opportunity might come pretty soon if we don't really see any fresh break below this 16,800 level. I feel after maybe 1 hour more, right now it has been holding this level for almost an hour. So you can think about this level for maybe 1 hour more, and if we don't really see any fresh break on the lower side, there is of course the possibility of a fresh move toward the prior swing highs. So keeping that in mind, we do have the chances developing for us for the continuation of the earlier bullish trajectory. So that is something we can watch out for. And if we have to see which is the cryptocurrency, which is having the bullish momentum with the relative strength, let's consider the Ether as well, Ethereum. And for Ethereum, we have seen this fresh 4 hourly high right after this 4 hourly low. So to compare it with the Bitcoin, let's consider the chart of the Bitcoin. Bitcoin had also gone closer to those levels, but it didn't really cross above that. And in terms of the relative strength, I think the lead is with these Ethereum. We also have to consider its larger time frame charting where we have this average price holding closer to the last 12 hours, and on the lower side we have the significant support of 24 hours average price as well. So here both of these cryptocurrencies are in mood of gaining ground against the dollar. So they are simply consolidating with these prior gains, and as long as we don't really see any significant break on the lower side, and if this current low holds for at least maybe 1 hour more, then we will have this clarity where we have already seen these level holding for the prior couple of hours. Then again this consolidation is there, so there will be two instances of this consolidation with not much of a decline seen on the lower side. So we can take our chances and think about going long around these current levels while keeping the stop loss somewhere below these immediate swing low. And here the advantage on the higher side, though it is not that significant, but still whatever it is, slight, even if it is only slightly on the higher side, but still we can take that into account and give it more of a preference compared to the Bitcoin for any trade to be taken. So, Alice, I hope I have satisfied your query. If you have anything to say, please type in before I wrap up the session. So, guys, that's all from my side for today's session. I will be back tomorrow with the assessment freshly done with that point in time price dynamic taken into account. So, see you tomorrow, guys.